So I think the first thing to say really is probably what we do is quite unique. I don't know that there's many other organisations that perhaps do recruitment attraction on the level that we do and get to make TV adverts and actually spend the money and have the opportunity to do the creative that we do. So the Army don't particularly have a product brand that we can leverage against, so really everything that we're doing is pretty much on us in order to get out and do that. We've got a pretty big job. This year we've got to attract 80,000 regular soldiers, about 10,000 officers and around 8,000 reserves. I was trying to recruit some people earlier, you know, just to see if anyone wants to join. We haven't got any further investment. We generally have the same budget each year. That obviously gets harder as we go through, and we have to make that money work harder, and we have to really sweat it to get where we need to. So it's going to talk you through the development of our latest campaign. So where we really start from is research. And we do a lot of research, and we're quite lucky that we have the opportunity to do that. It's actually in our contract, we have to do it. So we know quite a lot about our audience, and that is a really key message, that when you're doing recruitment marketing, knowing your audience is key. So where are we? You know, we attract 16 to 24-year-olds predominantly, is what we're looking for. There are less of those than there used to be. The number of people out of employment is pretty low, and that's for reasons of just low unemployment, but also the fact that you have to stay in education now until you're 18, so the likelihood of people being in training and education is higher. Also, one of our key issues is the declining sphere of influence that the Army's got. The Army went through quite a lot of redundancies, as sometimes people remember, and the Army population went down to around 80,000. Now, because of that, the likelihood of people knowing somebody else in the Army and actually knowing what the Army does is really low. And when we did some research recently, only 7% of the MTA that we were interviewing knew somebody in the Army. So that means people don't know what the Army does. There's no high profile conflicts going on at the moment. So we did, people, ironically, as much as you'd think people don't want to join for war and that sort of thing, people like to join to go to war. And actually, you know, Afghanistan, people wanted to join to do their bit for their country. One of the things that you'll hear quite often when you talk to people is, oh, why would I join? I don't know what the Army does. I'm just going to be trained for a job I'll never do. So it's actually 82% of people at the moment, when we were interviewing our MTA, didn't understand what a modern army does. So that's another issue that we have to try and convey to people. Also, another problem that we have is the offer's pretty unappealing to a lot of people, and they're a bit confused about what it actually is. This was a really interesting bit of research that we did, where we got people and we produced a hatch tank of around like sort of 20 or 30 people. And we asked them all these series of different conversations, asked them to clip little photos and different things about what they thought about the Army into it. And one of the questions we asked them was, if you were going to a party, how would you describe all the different forces? And these were the results. And the Army, the thing that most people, ridiculously, 16 to 24-year-olds you just wouldn't expect, the thing that most people said when you said, you know, what association do you have with the Army? It was Dad's Army. And I suppose if you think, you know, there are lots of programmes out there, but maybe that's the one that perhaps sticks in people's mind. It's repeated more. Soldier and Soldier, Robson and Jerome, for people that remember that, it's probably a long time ago. You don't really see it very much unless you're watching Dave. Yeah, the work-life balance that you maybe get with the Army, it's not like going to get a project management job somewhere and just applying for a job. You're applying to something that's an entire lifestyle. You're going to be asked to be signed up for a pretty long period of time. It's going to take you and your family into different locations. You're going to be asked 2 years. There's some amazing benefits that go alongside that we have to try and get out to people. But it's a big decision. It's a big leap of faith for people to make. We have a defined number of people that are in the age bracket where we can apply, people can join. You have to be between 16 to 36, to join the army. It's just gone up. We only get 2% of people that apply post 24. Lifestyle, all of those other things start to become a factor, and it's just less appealing, I think, at that point. But then we layer in all of the other issues that come into that. So we have a lot of eligibility criteria that come in. You cannot have a beard in the army. For a lot of people now, that's quite a defining thing for them, and they don't want to have to shave that off. You can't have visible tattoos, so although you can have tattoos, you can't have visible ones. And the biggest issue for us really is health and fitness for a lot of people. You can get to be fit and do that. Most people aren't ready for that point, but the health exclusion. So this is our sort of pyramid of people that we're sort of trying to go after. We include everybody within this, so even our rejectors, because actually our rejectors could be gatekeepers, and as Adam was mentioning earlier, you know, if people are mentioning to their children, friends, families, that sort of thing about the Army's offer, that's great for us. We have our non-rejectors, which we have to try and warm up if we're ever going to hope to change their minds and meet the numbers that we need to go for. So we have a campaign at the moment which is called Belonging. We started it in 2016, and we're in, it's probably last year of its iteration at the moment. So we went about, we interviewed lots of people in the Army, and we did a lot of research, and one of the key things that came about was these core purpose of belonging, and the team, I suppose, element of it, which is something we really conveyed. So that was our, sort of in 2017 when we did the first advertising campaign for Belonging, that was what we used. 2018, some of you might remember last year, caused a little bit of controversy. It was about attainability. So the research was showing us that people could see that there was a great offer, but they maybe couldn't see themselves there for whatever reason that would be. So we wanted to show that people like you could join the Army. And we had all of the animations that got leaked. They did actually get leaked on accident. It wasn't purpose, although it did quite well for us, so it was convenient. Which were, you know, is it okay to be gay in the Army? Can I be a Muslim in the Army? And all of that sort of thing. We got a lot of the Daily Mail elements saying, oh, the Army's recruiting snowflakes. But it worked. The graph that you can sort of see on the end there is really interesting. So we do brand tracking every quarter. And we do, once a year, we do emotional, we do facial coding for the emotional response that people have to the adverts, and we compare them against our competitors, and ours beat them, yay! You can see there's a couple there of that. There's one of ours that didn't do very well. That was one of our adverts last year, and as soon as we did that result and it didn't score well, we dropped it and we stopped showing it. It was still in some circulation, but you know, we can make quite quick decisions and change things as it goes on about what's working and what isn't. Our applications have risen year on year, and last year in December, our applications were at a 5-year high. So we know the campaign's working for us. We also, this is part of the brand tracking that we do. We know that Army interest is growing. So actually, within our target audience, it's working for us. And also to that same point, parents would recommend joining the Army, which is key. We went to a lot of Army training centres and spoke to recent recruits who are in their first basic training sessions and said, what made you join? And one of the key bits that started to come out of it was said, well, I didn't just want to work in a shop. I didn't just want to work behind McDonald's. I didn't want another job that was going to be same old thing. And I wanted something that would mean something. So we looked back at the research and sort of delved through the research, and we were finding actually that was quite key for people. And we were finding, you know, people wanted to do something that really mattered. They wanted purpose. There's been quite a lot of research done, and some of these figures come from the Prince's Trust, and some of them come from some other studies there, that you know, people want, they don't want to feel in a cycle of unrewarding jobs. So this became our proposition. We needed to leave the audience with no doubt that the army could offer them a job that mattered. So this is how this fitted into where we'd come from with the previous campaign. So we did the importance of belonging, the attainability, and then now, because of belonging, someone like me can really can work and do a job in the army and find something that matters. So this is the marketing funnel, but particularly, along the top here, but for recruitment. And this is our architecture of how we launched the campaign. So you can see we've got the TV element, which is still key for us. It still does well. The out of home, which I'll talk a little bit more about, and some of you probably will remember seeing that when we launched. We also use social a lot with influencers to talk around misconceptions that they'd experienced as well, and stereotypes, and try to go against that. All integrating as it goes through. So some of those elements do different jobs. So the PR, the billboards, we only ever, out of home is something that it's expensive. But we do it for a couple of weeks at the beginning of a launch of a campaign for the PR purposes for it. And that's the reason we do it. We don't really expect our MTA are going to be reading that and going to apply from any of that basis, but it's to give us more reach. We then move into the sort of, I suppose, the inspire element, go further down the funnel where people will be being retargeted with information. They'll be getting different messaging there that's bringing through some of those elements. So once we've attracted, we'll start to bring through some of those pieces around skills, training, and what the offer can mean from that perspective. And then get them to the website where we want them to apply and act. And then we use CRM quite a lot, and we use it after application. And the reason really for that is because we have such a long time of flight between when you apply to when you can actually join and go on to training. This is our, just sort of shows the architecture, I suppose, of how our campaign sits together. So we have the headline campaign, which is at the top, which we call the above the line campaign, and that is the bit that has to speak to everyone. It speaks to the whole audience. We then move into the more digital, tactical campaigns. They're always on because our audience is always on. And they are the ones we'll flex and serve quite a lot in terms of what we're doing and monitor the actions there. Probably people might remember seeing this. The out of home was designed to spark controversy. That was its job. In the age of sort of ad blocking, 98% of advertising goes unnoticed. Most people don't look at it, don't see it. So we needed to do something brave that grabbed people's attention, sparked controversy, talked about, made debate, and actually take these adverts from being just advertising into culture that people are talking about. The more people are talking about it, the more people that know that army recruiting, and that's ultimately the goal. Got quite a lot of attention. We were quite excited when we made the New York Times, and then we were in Australia. We're like, oh, look at us. Can't recruit any of those people, but it's quite exciting reach. It was quite a brave campaign for the army, and it was really going against some of the previous, so last year's hatred around, the army are going to be full of snowflakes, all of this kind of thing. It was a direct element to sort of actually call that out with people. In the first week, we got 4.8 billion worth of PR reach, which is pretty exciting for us because we don't have the budget. It's a big budget. We don't have the budget to do that through paid media. So we needed to antagonise a little bit on that basis. The day the campaign launched, we actually had more applications in that one day than we'd had on any previous days in the last 12 months.